Have you ever been on a calm boat ride when a sudden storm blows in, threatening to capsize everything? That's the kind of wave I felt when whispers started swirling, not shiny headlines but something darker. Word behind the scenes says that during Zac Efron's so-called Yacht Boy era, a handful of powerful men crossed lines and cheapened his glow. Now I'm here to walk you through why this matters, not just for Zac, but for how we understand the cost of fame when you're adrift in luxury.
Go to Cannes, France, and get on these yachts and do things with billionaires that they would not do if they weren't getting paid. One person said, "Can't Zach get a gig on Only?"
Not only is the yachting industry creepy AF, as the worker, these situations can cause feelings of shame or regret, and sometimes the allegation that someone might be a yacht person is weaponized against them, whether it's true or not. Now, I do want to make the distinction here and say that there shouldn't be an inherent shame in the work itself. At the same time,
Insiders whisper that Zac's so-called Yacht Boy days weren't what they looked like on the glossy magazine covers. Fans saw flashes of champagne bottles, crisp linen shirts, and glittering waters of Saint-Tropez, but behind the lens, the story wasn't as carefree. The yachts themselves were less playgrounds and more gilded cages, where Zac's role wasn't always about fun, but about performing an image that benefited the powerful men around him. Think about it. Paparazzi photos are choreographed in their own way.
Sadly, this is not surprising to me. Now, I don't think Zach is going to create an OF page anytime soon because yachting is a lot more elite than that, and you make a lot more money.
See that now that chin has more extension forward than it did previously. There's also increased width.
I think that he has had some jaw work. It looks more like an implant, whether that was metal plates or a jaw implant for aesthetics.
Zac Efron is allegedly a yacht boy.
Zac Efron earns a big payday while on a luxurious yacht with older men. His net worth has increased by $5 million from other ventures outside of acting.
Speaking of yachting, it is very, very rare that the Svengali lets the former Disney actor out of his sight during yachting season.
Every smile, every pose, every body leaned casually on a deck railing is a performance. But whispers in Hollywood hint that Zac's smiles mask tension. The yacht wasn't just leisure, it was a chessboard, and Zac was a piece being moved. To fans, it looked like he was living a dream. To Zac, sources say it often felt like an act. That's why calling him Yacht Boy isn't a compliment, it's a reminder of a role he was pushed into where luxury doubled as pressure. Word behind the scenes is that Zac didn't address any of this for years.
work is still highly stigmatized in our society, and that is oftentimes used against workers, and in this case, these high-profile workers. So with considerations of their reputation, along with their physical safety, as I mentioned earlier, the stakes are high. So yeah, the concern people have for Zac being tied to all of this is definitely understandable. Even if Zac wasn't engaging in
He let the tabloids and online sleuths paint their own narratives while he kept his lips sealed. But when he finally began to speak about those years, his tone shifted. There was a heaviness, a darkness in his voice that couldn't be brushed off. He didn't name names, but he didn't need to. The timing of his comments, paired with the imagery fans remembered, was enough to make everyone connect the dots. That silence then signal move was powerful.
Fortunately, it can sometimes get a bit seedy, a bit creepy with drunk people who think they can do whatever they want. These owners, these millionaires, these billionaires, they're incredibly powerful people, and a lot of the time they get their own way. It's an incredibly secretive world, which no one really knows much about. The guests just use super yachts as their little playground. They live in this little bubble where they think anything goes and anything can happen.
A Svengali is a person who controls others with powerful mental manipulation.
The actor from A Family Affair joined a group of friends on a yacht.
Why would somebody with multiple stints in rehab vacation in Ibiza?
It suggested he wasn't ready to tell the story until he could carry it. And when he did, it was like a storm breaking. Fans who once joked about his Yacht Boy label suddenly viewed it differently, realizing there may have been more shadows on that deck than sunlight. In a world where stars often overshare, Zac's restraint made his words hit harder. By holding back, he gave gravity to what he finally revealed. And now that silence has transformed into speculation, empathy, and a hunger to know what else he's still holding back.
work on the high seas, it doesn't sound like an environment that would be conducive to sobriety, especially for someone who has a history of relapse and self-destruction. I mean, this summer he was spotted heading onto a yacht the same day as his high-profile ex, Vanessa Hudgens, was leaving the hospital with her newborn baby. So is it reaching to think that there might be a link here, that he sees yachting as part of his addiction/coping mechanisms? But it's not like Vanessa having a baby is enough to throw Zac off the wagon on its own. The truth is, Zac has been struggling for a long time, and all of the signs have been hiding in plain sight.
Hollywood chatter claims the drama didn't unfold in Beverly Hills mansions or hotel suites. It unfolded in the middle of the ocean, far from the city's watchful eyes. Yachts became private stages where powerful men could flex their influence without boundaries. Under the cover of waves and night skies, those luxury boats turned into arenas of negotiation, expectation, and control. Insiders describe late-night conversations that weren't just small talk. They sounded more like deals. Requests were framed as opportunities, favors dangled as stepping stones. And when you're young, rising, and surrounded by people who hold the keys to your future, those conversations are hard to walk away from. For Zac, the yachts weren't just floating palaces, they were pressure cookers. Every interaction carried weight. Every laugh, every nod, every yes had consequences. It wasn't just about being there, it was about surviving the undertow of influence swirling around him. The talk in town is that yachts look like the safest havens in the world. No paparazzi chasing down the street, no random fans sneaking photos, just water, privacy, and exclusivity. But insiders whisper that this so-called safety became isolation, and in isolation, power shifts dangerously. On land, there are boundaries, crowds, laws, cameras, accountability, but on a yacht in the middle of the sea, those boundaries blur. It's harder to say no. Harder to leave, harder to call for help. The very thing that makes yachts appealing, their privacy, was the same thing that created a shadow behind the sunsets. To outsiders, it looked like paradise. To Zac, whispers suggest it sometimes felt like being trapped in a world where the rules no longer applied. And that's the part fans are only now beginning to understand. The yacht wasn't just luxury, it was also a stage where isolation disguised itself as security, and that made the whole experience far from harmless. Online circles lit up like detectives piecing together a crime scene. Fans began combing through old yacht photos of Zac, zooming in on facial expressions, posture, even the way his eyes darted. One shot showed him leaning back, sunglasses on, but his skin looked pale, drained, not the glow of someone enjoying paradise, but the fatigue of someone enduring it. Another showed him surrounded by older, imposing figures, his body angled slightly away as if unconsciously creating distance. Comments poured in, "Look at his face, he doesn't look happy here, and that smile is practiced, not natural." On Reddit, a thread dissected how Zac's features seemed aged up in certain pics, like the carefree boy next door had been swapped for someone carrying the weight of too many unspoken expectations. Fans weren't just scrolling, they were sleuthing. And that's the chilling part. To the casual eye, these images screamed glamour. To those who looked closer, they whispered discomfort. It became a collective revelation. Maybe the story those photos sold wasn't the real one at all. Industry buzz suggests Zac's decision to speak out, even in hints, didn't come easy. The same powerful men he described still linger in Hollywood's upper circles, still holding keys to influence and careers. Breaking silence meant risking bridges, losing opportunities, and painting a target on his back. But here's the flip side. By choosing to speak, even subtly, Zac grabbed his narrative back. He was no longer the boy photographed on the yacht, frozen in someone else's story. He became the man telling the story. That shift is huge. It's one thing to be talked about, it's another to seize the mic and redefine your image. Whispers online suggest his team debated heavily before allowing him to hint at these truths. But Zac's choice showed resolve. He wasn't just the easygoing friend people laughed with on deck. He was someone demanding agency and accountability, even if it rattled the men who once called the shots. Hollywood chatter points out the irony baked into the nickname. Yacht Boy sounds glamorous, carefree, like someone living their best life. But insiders hint the label was more cage than crown. The word boy itself shrinks him, reduces him to youth, novelty, an accessory in someone else's fantasy. Behind the champagne smiles, whispers say Zac carried the burden of expectation. Show up, look good, play along, keep everyone happy. Freedom? Hardly. It was performance on repeat, and performance without choice is just pressure in disguise. This is why the nickname stings now. Fans once used it with playful envy, but today they see the trap in it. Zac may have looked like he was sailing freely, but in truth, every wave carried an undertow of obligation. The so-called Yacht Boy was never really free. The talk in town is that once fans realized the darker undertone behind those yacht days, the narrative shifted dramatically. Shock melted into protection. People flooded comment sections with messages like, "That golden smile hid storms, and if true, this is privilege turned prison." Others expressed rage at the industry, at the unnamed powerful men, at the fact that someone as beloved as Zac could be put through situations that looked like privilege but felt like pressure. Fans demanded accountability, tweeting at studios and agencies, questioning who enabled the culture that allowed this. What began as gossip evolved into empathy. People stopped laughing at the Yacht Boy label and started acknowledging the pain behind it. The shift was powerful. Zac wasn't just a celebrity anymore. He was seen as a survivor of a system that blurred fun and control until the difference disappeared. Whispers online hint that the men Zac encountered during those yacht days weren't just rich playboys, they were gatekeepers. These were the types who could open doors with a single phone call, a casual gesture, a night spent in the right company, or even a decision to stay on board a little longer could ripple into the future. A new movie role, a lucrative brand partnership, or an introduction to a studio executive. And that's where the sinister edge comes in. When opportunities are tied to presence, and presence is tied to appeasing powerful figures, it stops being leisure and starts being labor. Zac's struggle wasn't just personal, it was institutional. What looked like mentorship or friendship from the outside may have been exploitation dressed in silk. Fans online now view this lens differently. Those yachts weren't about fun, they were auditions without scripts. The price tag for access wasn't measured in dollars, it was measured in compliance, in playing along, in giving away pieces of yourself for a seat at the table. That's the real cost behind those glamorous photos. Insiders tell me that after those years, Zac's public presence took a sharp turn. In interviews, the boyish sparkle that once defined him cooled into something more reserved. His laughter was quieter, his answers more careful. He began bowing out of certain Hollywood party circuits, trading yacht decks and red carpets for quieter, more isolated stretches of time in Australia. On screen, too, the change was undeniable. Gone were the lightweight rom-coms that kept him locked in a pretty boy box. Instead, he began choosing darker, meatier roles, characters weighed down by secrets, films that mirrored the complexity brewing behind his own eyes. It was as if Zac had stepped out from the yacht's shadow, refusing to be framed by it anymore, and audiences suddenly saw new depth in his performances. Fans noticed. Comment threads filled with takes like, "He's grown, something's changed in him." That's not the Zac from High School Musical, that's a man who's lived through something. The shift wasn't just professional, it was personal. And for many it proved that the yacht phase wasn't freedom. It was the fire he had to walk through before claiming himself back. Industry insiders acknowledge that Zac has always been caught in a dangerous balance. Keeping silent kept him safe. Silence meant less backlash, fewer enemies, no powerful figures coming for him behind the scenes. But silence also meant living with the weight of secrets, the quiet erosion of self. Speaking out, even in fragments, flipped that script. It gave him ownership, but at a price. Once the hints escaped his lips, he opened himself up to skepticism, dismissal, and even backlash from those who benefit from keeping things quiet. That duality, safety in silence, danger in exposure, has defined much of his career arc. Zac's reveal wasn't just gossip fodder, it was guts. He chose truth over peace, clarity over comfort. And that choice, while risky, marked a turning point. He stopped being the subject of stories others told about him and became the teller of his own. That alone takes courage in an industry where silence is often the currency. Rumors in the circle say Zac's revelation cracked open a door that others had long been waiting to push. By hinting at the darker side of his yacht days, he forced Hollywood and fans to confront something often overlooked: the expectations placed on young male stars to grin through discomfort, to swallow unease, to keep performing no matter the cost. His story isn't just about him. It's about every actor who felt trapped in an environment where opportunity was dangled like bait, and the price for reaching it was compliance. It's about the hidden pressures that never make it into glossy interviews or red carpet photos. And now, thanks to Zac, those conversations are happening in forums, in fan circles, even in industry meetings. People are asking, what's the real price of fame? How many smiles on magazine covers were hiding storms? Zac's words made it harder to ignore those questions. And by forcing the dialogue, he's not just healing his own narrative, he's carving a path for others to finally voice theirs. Hollywood chatter claims what Zac went through isn't an isolated story, it's the velvet trap of fame itself. From the outside, it looks irresistible: velvet ropes, private jets, yachts, glittering premieres. But once you step inside, the reality shifts. Those velvet ropes don't just keep fans out, they lock you in. The expectation becomes constant: always smile, always show up, always say yes. And those opportunities aren't always opportunities, they're compromises in disguise. Zac's story makes us wonder how many others smiled too wide on those yachts, at those parties, on those red carpets, hiding discomfort under a grin. How many young stars drowned in urgency disguised as mentorship, in privilege that masked pressure? The velvet trap lures you in with luxury and leaves you realizing the freedom you thought you had was just an illusion. Zac's reveal ripped back that curtain, exposing how glossy images often camouflage hidden costs. Fans online are now calling Zac's move a reclamation. For years, Yacht Boy was used as a mocking label, shorthand for indulgence or superficiality, but by speaking up, Zac flipped the meaning on its head. He transformed the phrase from a glamorous insult into a cautionary tale, proof that what looks like excess can actually be entrapment. Comment threads that once joked about his yacht days now glow with respect. Fans write things like, "He turned pain into power, and he's teaching the next generation not to fall for the same tricks." In their eyes, Zac isn't just telling his truth, he's rewriting the script for others who might walk into the same trap. It's the ultimate rebrand. He's no longer the boy smiling on a boat, he's the man who pulled the mask off the performance. By reclaiming his narrative, Zac made sure no one else could weaponize it against him. The talk in town is that Zac's revelations, even indirect, even whispered, sparked a quiet revolution. His words didn't need to be shouted to ripple through the industry. Writers' rooms began talking about the hidden pressures on young stars. Agents started having tougher conversations about boundaries. And fans flooded DMs and forums with their own stories of being pressured, expected, or silenced. This wasn't outrage for outrage's sake, it was clarity. Zac didn't deliver anger or hysteria. He delivered honesty, and sometimes honesty is louder than rage. His choice to speak up in measured tones made his message harder to dismiss. That might end up being his greatest legacy. Not the blockbuster roles, not the red carpets, not even the High School Musical nostalgia, but the fact that he used his own storm to shift the weather for others. One quiet revolution, sparked by a man who refused to let a label define him anymore. Here's what I believe is next. Zac will no longer let others curate his narrative. He'll choose roles that reflect internal complexity, not superficial charm. He'll build dialogues with creators who honor truth over poker faces. The yacht isn't just a memory, it's a turning point. And as his arc shifts, you'll see other stars nodding behind the scenes, realizing it's no longer safe to cheat discomfort for spotlight. This could be the moment the silent start to speak, and the industry starts to change.